welcome back to another, or, it might be your first short mini episodes I do for the podcast, just to dive really deeper into something else, right? Obviously I'm David Chambers, I'm the host, and I'm going to dive into these signs that maybe you've met someone who is the one, but you're self-sabotaging, because this is something that comes up a lot with my clients, right? And I've probably said that there's, 10, but I'll probably go through a few more than that, right? One of the first ones is actually cheating. Something I've seen in many men is that they are in a relationship and the relationship is good, and then they stop being able to express their feelings or express what's going on for them for fear of being judged or not being accepted. And then to relieve that pressure growing, right, that happens, or sometimes there's a conflict that they're not facing up to, they go off and cheat, to relieve some pressure, to release some stress outside the relationship. So that's one of the ways that we kind of self-sabotage ourselves in relationship. Another one is just resisting, it kind of linked to the first one, is like resisting opening up, right? Where we don't open up our emotions, we don't open up our heart to receive love and be in love with the person we're in. We keep them at a distance, right? We just want to keep them out the way or keep them slightly away from us. We keep a barrier between us because, there's a fear there, the fear of being hurt, a fear of actually really being seen, a fear of not being accepted as well. And then talking on the word accepted, another part that we do often is what we'll do is we will only show the parts of us that we deem quote unquote unacceptable, that we think a woman's going to accept. So we hold back much of our truth, much of our feeling, much of our experience, much of our dreams and hopes even, because we worry that it won't be accepted and be rejected because maybe in some past relationship something similar happened, right? And this often creates this chasm between people, right? And or the feeling of fakeness or a lack of, or boringness even, because we're not bringing the kind of range of who we are. Like, we're not bringing the parts of us that maybe we feel a bit of shame about, or the parts of us that we are really excited about, but, we also feel a little bit of vulnerability around, right? And we end up in this relationship or this dynamic with somebody where we're just kind of on this level of like the acceptable, the okay, the nice bits of us. And it just sometimes can feel very flat. Another thing we can start doing when we're self-sabotaging is we bring our attention to our partner's flaws, right? And this is something that I do. I have done many, many times, and many of my clients do, right? Where we fixate on small perceived imperfections. And the important word there is perceived, right? So we look at usually often how someone looks, or a lifestyle choice, or something they do often, right? It might be the way they speak, it might be the way they eat. And then we fixate, our mind gets absolutely obsessed with the way they do that thing or how that thing makes us feel. And we slowly become very angry and frustrated. But we actually don't often what I see is we don't mention the thing. We can't say it because we're like, God, it's a terrible thing to say, right? So one of the things you have to look at when this happens is like, is this really a big thing? Or am I making a mountain out of a molehill? Am I creating this story and projecting it into the future? And how is that defending me from dropping deeper into this relationship and connection? You sabotage good moments with unnecessary conflict or disconnection, right? You might be with your partner, you're going to have a nice night out, or you're having a nice night out, and you maybe get annoyed at the service at the restaurant. And this really takes you out of being present, right? You get really annoyed at the service and you feel frustrated, or you feel sad, or you feel disappointed. And that kind of colors the lens and experience you have, right? Or it might be that, this often comes when this closeness is being felt, right? Or it might be they make a mistake, right? And you really go in on it in your mind, or even with them, right? When you could just let it go and move on, right? And you allow this sort of thing to kind of jeopardize a relationship, or the good feeling that's there, or the deeper connection that could be possible. Another thing, I see this a lot with men I work with or come to me, as kind of using self-development and growth work as a way to keep them at a distance, kind of being busy, or the old, I'm really focused on me right now. I can't enter a relationship. I need to do so much kind of work before I can get into a relationship. And, sometimes this is true. But a lot of the time I see that it's just another way to keep someone at distance and not kind of lean in, right? Another pattern that's really common I see is this testing. And this sometimes can be quite subconscious. Like it could be something like, you have some female friends, and you'll kind of test to see how she feels about that, or how she responds to you going and spending time with them, right? But you're also kind of on high alert for any sort of like rejection, any sort of complaint, or any sort of indication that they don't like it. Meaning you're looking for ways to fail them at this test without, they don't know they're being tested, right? Like a much healthier way would be to be like, hey, like I've got these friends, some female friends, and in the past, my ex-partners haven't been okay with this, but I'm just letting you know that, this is a deep friendship that's gone on for many years. Like you can come out and hang out with us or whatever it may be, right? You could have a conversation or you could bring your partner in, but this is a way that we test if this person is going to really kind of accept us, right? But without giving some understanding and information, while also being on the lookout for any signs of rejection. So that could look like, in this instance, your partner could ask you a couple of questions about the women you're seeing, right? You're spending time with your friends, and you take that as like, oh, she doesn't accept this relationship can't go anywhere, and you maybe eject or you slowly withdraw. So it's just looking out for the ways in which you do this. This is a really good one. You resist seeing her as a mirror for your own wounds. So this comes in the guise of, firstly, where our partner kind of reflects to us our behavior. And instead of listening as if like as a useful bit of feedback and information, we just reject it offhand. Like, nope, you're wrong. No, that's not who I am. And this comes from almost like a little bit of arrogance, really, of that this belief that we know ourselves so well. And you always have to remember the people around you see you through your actions and your words in a very different way to how you see yourself in your head, right? And this can work in the positive and negative. But in this instance, we're talking about where they may be reflecting some of your wounds about maybe avoiding deeper connection or around intimacy, or about how you communicate or how you don't communicate. And this person could be trying to show you how you could be better, but instead there's a defensiveness, there's a rejection of what they're saying, and a blame, and almost a feeling that they're gaslighting you, or they are telling you things about you that aren't true. Instead of asking the question, I got this from a program I was in a couple of years ago, it's like, where is this true? Or what are the moments that you can see in what they're saying to you, that what they're saying to you is true? Because there's definitely going to be some moments where it can be seen that, what they're reflecting to is true. Like maybe it is a case of, oh, you don't communicate, like, where you're going, what you're doing, how you're feeling about certain things. And you might retort with like, yes, I do. But actually it's like, well, when do you not communicate? Ask yourself, when do I not communicate? Or you can respond to them in a way that's like, where do you see that happening? When are the moments that you've seen that? And then they express to you and you go, okay, I can see where I could have been more full with my explanation or my expression of love or what I was up to or what I was planning, right? And then that time you allow this conversation to turn in from a conflict into a way of deepening your connection. And the next one here is about withholding your truth because you fear being too much. Right? This is something, it's very linked to the acceptance piece, but it's this way in which we're like, oh, if I show this part of my personality, they're going to think I'm too much. For me, many years ago, it was this part of me that, really loved to be a very sociable person, and the parts of me that had, enjoyed a lot of dating life and enjoyed dating and enjoyed these sorts of things, right? And I didn't want to talk about that to partners in case it was too much for them to handle. So I would hold it back and not say anything. So it's just good to understand that actually you can't build a relationship when you're constantly hiding the parts of yourself because you think they won't be accepted or they're going to be good enough, because at some point they're going to start to come out, even if unconsciously they start to come out, and it just kind of seeps out in little ways, right? And then you find yourself in a relationship that's built on not who you are, and those relationships usually crumble. This is a good one for men. We do this a lot, right? Where we hide or limit any view of the woman we're with, where she could view our actions or our way of being as weakness. These moments of weakness, that can be vulnerability, that can be pain, that can be upset, that can be mistakes, right? And it can even be moments where we think we've hurt them, right? we hide those, and this can get into very, very dark places, right? It's like anything that we deem as weakness, we hide because we think we're going to be judged, that we think we're going to be ridiculed, or we think we're going to be punished. And actually, again, it's another way which we sabotage perfectly good relationships, right? By this, like, not believing that the person we've had the capacity to hold are kind of not even weaker, but more gentle parts of us, or the parts that we don't necessarily accept, or the things that we've done that we feel shame and guilt about. And I think the last thing I'm going to say here is something that I personally really struggled with, was this acceptance of like love and desire and affection from partners. I'd often push it away. You know, they'd want to like love me and praise me and see me. And I would almost physically, with affection sometimes, move away from it. You know, maybe they want to hug in bed and I'd feel like, oh, this feels kind of weird. This feels like kind of icky. I want to move away. But the thing is that we then project onto them like, oh, this relationship must be wrong because I don't feel this way. And we don't look at like, why do I feel that way about love and affection? What's occurred in my life that's made me be like that, you know? And in my case, like a lot of the men that I work with, it's that we grew up in spaces where we didn't get a huge amount of kind of love and affection shown in that way. So it feels uncomfortable. Not that the relationship is wrong, but we are uncomfortable. So the journey there is actually just to lean in more and more, right, into that, and being in the hug and being in the holding, in the caress and kissing, right? And you'll start to see like, what's the story that comes up for you in your mind? Like, this is horrible. This is weird. This is uncomfortable. But it's a really important thing, like, because when we step into this kind of zone of things that are uncomfortable, we stretch our capacity. We have more capacity for love, for holding, for connecting, and for deepening a relationship. And if you keep ejecting from relationships as soon as, you know, there's this feeling of not deserving love, you're never going to find a relationship that's going to work for you. Right. So that's it. That's it for today. Just a quick one. If you're wanting to dive deeper into this, I'm going to be running my Avoidant Man program again in the next few months. So I'm going to put the waiting list down below because, you know, these are a lot of what I work with is men who are avoidance. If you're wanting to be on that, it's a 3-month program. I've got some incredible reviews about it. I'm going to put a sales page up soon, but you know, the what's it called? The form, you just fill in your interests. There's no kind of, I'm tying you to nothing. You'll just get an email. Once the date is confirmed, you get a discount as well for being on there if you do sign up. So you can find that in the show notes below and just put your details in there and we'll catch up. All right. I'll leave you to get on with the day.